call the village council work session meeting to order for the 27th at 9 o'clock. I show we have all of council except for Robert Epps, who's not here. First off, we have adoption of the agenda. Do we have any additions, changes?
Yeah. I have under items of discussion, number 15, it looks like we only had 114-2020 and 130-2020 minutes in there. So if we can just take 211-2020 off. I could take those. And then,
And are you tabling that?
no, they just weren't in the packet.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah, just remove it.
Right,
I thought I had sent the right one out.
and then I want to add under items of discussion number 20 to discuss Village of Marvin, Village Hall sign to not prevent or to prevent handguns in Village Hall.
So concealed weapons.
Yes,
So you want to address concealed
Yes.
weapons issue?
correct. We need to have a sign posted that you can't have them.
Okay. Anything else?
When does that start?
That's
Okay. Okie dokie.
It's good to know. Noted.
That's it. I'm good.
Jamie?
I'm
Okay. I, going forward, as I was looking at this, and I got a lot of calls, so in between the time you send out the packet and it goes out to the community, sometimes we hear of things and stuff. So going forward, I'd like to put a spot on the agenda for, I don't know how you want to label it and stuff, because sometimes things come up. And this particular incident that came up is like, you know what? Let me throw it out to the work session so we can possibly put it on the next thing. So holding a slot going forward on our agenda that when the council comes in, and you may have talked to a neighbor and say, hey, you know, I said, well, I'll bring it up in the thing instead of talking about it in council comments. I'd like to leave a holding spot for that. What I'd like to add, is that okay?
Yeah, so like something like constituent
Well,
concerns? Like
No,
holding spot for
just,
that?
it could be anything. I could have, like yesterday, talked to another councilman who brought an issue to me, and I'm saying, we're having a work session, let me talk about that in the work session or bring that up. But
Okay.
just a holding spot that, is there anything you guys want to discuss
Well,
this
just
last minute?
Throw
you
it
know?
under items of discussion.
Well,
Well, you have that opportunity before you adopt the agenda.
Right, but what I'm saying, item discussions, we've always talked about transparency and giving the community looks at this. So technically, your concealed
Yeah.
weapons should not be allowed because it's not thing. But if we have a holding spot for things that came up, sort of like this, which just came up since the time
Okay, so what do you want to call it?
Um,
Because you gotta call it something if you're gonna put it
well,
on. there.
I mean, if nothing else, under D, after D, E is now, I didn't really think it through, I just was throwing it out there because I do have something,
Open topic?
open topics, perfect. Open, yeah,
Okay.
open topics. Thanks, Jamie, for saying.
Okay, so
This obviously wasn't scripted before, you know, and I was talking to
Okay, so
Jamie.
E, you want it to be now open topics?
Open topics, yes.
Okay,
E.
as a general header, and then under open topics, one, you would like to talk about?
I've had numerous complaints about dogs on leashes.
Okay.
And this is happening in my neighborhood where the
Okay.
owners are refusing to do something with their dog as far as controlling it. And it has attacked people running, it has done that. So then when they call the police said we don't have a leash law, which I was surprised. I thought Union County did,
I did too.
but apparently we don't. So what I'd like to do.
Marvin has,
We would need to have an
That's my point.
okay, so we can have one.
All I'm doing is,
Right.
as an open topic, let's
So leash
consider leash laws, and then maybe they can do some research by the
Okay.
next meeting, and we can figure out what we need to do to create a leash law and stuff. So, but I'm gonna add that under there. So, open topics is E, and under that, or how about last minute open topics? Okay, we'll call it last minute because it is technically.
So we're gonna call it last minute open topics.
Yeah.
Is this to be
in perpetuity or just for today's?
No, I think in
In
perpetuity.
perpetuity.
Because
Okay, well, then you have to
you
change
don't
your
know who you're gonna
procedure.
talk to between Thursday when you get this packet and the Thursday when we come here. And you could have something this, and if you have to wait, technically you wouldn't be able to get it on the regular meeting.
Yep.
So there's 2 more weeks, and then another 2 weeks, so you're a month before you're talking to it.
Well, can I suggest something?
Sure.
If you have a topic that, once the agenda is posted, if you have a topic that you want to discuss and we have enough time to get it reposted out to the public and I send it out through MailChimp, wouldn't it be easier to just do that as opposed, because the same premise of what you're doing here is the people, these items that you're calling last
I
minute.
totally understand, and I
Deal
appreciate
with
that,
public's
and
not
yes,
able.
we can do that. However, if it's the day before, and I'm like, I know I'm having a meeting, and maybe we don't have much on the agenda, I'd like a spot there that just says an open topic. So yes, that makes sense, if I got that early enough, but I had gotten like phone calls, and then all of a sudden, yesterday, I'm sitting there going, okay, now this is getting serious because of what's happening. So I'm like, all right, let me get this on the agenda. So I agree with you. If the council has time to get with you, you can get it on MailChimp. We can get it out to the public, great. If not, it's just a holding spot, open topic.
Because you're gonna have to change your rules of procedure
Okay,
We'll do that.
for
We can
the
do that.
agenda.
Okay, anyways, that's all I wanted to add. Anything else? Need a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
So moved.
All those in favor? Motion passes. First up in presentation is Optimus Park. I didn't even see you there, Mr. Bill.
How are you doing?
Good, good to see you.
I have a presentation here, and I'm going to use PowerPoint or, see, one thing on it says Christmas list, don't bring that one up. Should I stand up here or over there? Where's the-
Either way, whatever you're comfortable with, you take a seat, whatever makes you comfortable with.
Did you see that?
Yeah. You
Would
should have
you
your
do?
phone, I've done it too.
I was holding my phone up, trying to turn the TV on.
How'd that work out?
Apparently it did.
No, it's up there.
But it's not on my laptop here.
Oh.
That's what I'm trying to get back. I hope we don't get a virus.
I doubt it. It's only up there, so how about I'll do this for now. And then you can put it up. And then I'll plug it back in.
You've got a PDF and the regular PowerPoint, so which one do you want me to?
If you've got PowerPoint, just use the PowerPoint. I think we do. They're both the same.
Okay. All right. This is not working. Okay. Oh.
Okay, we ready?
Okay, my name's Bill Dieter. Appreciate the time to make this presentation to you. I want to talk to you about Optimus Park, which is over on Highway 84. Everyone familiar with Optimus Park? Some of you may have kids playing sports over there. What I'm going to do, I'm going to give you a brief history of Optimus Park. I'm then going to talk to you about the value Optimus Park brings to the village of Weddington and its residents. Then I'm going to put out my hand and ask for some financial support. Okay, let's go to the first slide. Optimus Park was started in 1983 with the purchase of 20 acres by the Weddington Optimus Club. At that time, it had 6 baseball fields and a football field. In 2000, it expanded with the purchase of 34 acres by the WCWA sports organization. Today, the park consists of 9 baseball fields, 9 soccer fields, concession stand, children's playground, a half-mile walking trail, 2 girls softball fields, 2 multi-purpose fields, a football field that has artificial turf, and parking for 500 cars. It is the largest private sports park in Union and Mecklenburg County. The Take On Sports program, started in 2006 at Optimus Park, provides opportunities for special needs children and adults with physical and intellectual handicaps. It is an all-volunteer park, privately funded with no state, county, or municipal support. You can take the next slide, please. Take On Sports. When do I get to play? It was formed in 2006 by John and Gina Fisher. It serves children and adults with physical and intellectual challenges. Today it serves over 280 families in 6 scheduled leagues. They're called leagues, but they consist of basketball, soccer, football, bowling, physical fitness, and I'll be honest with you, I can't think of what the other one is. It's the only program of its kind in Union County and Mecklenburg County. And what it is, it's for special needs kids and adults. It benefits the kids in our communities. As an example, the village of Weddington, is that you'll get junior and senior high school kids. They buddy up with these children. So each special needs child or adult has a buddy that helps them through the activity and the sports. It allows our children, for example, I'm talking here in the village of Weddington, they're exposed to things that a lot of times they're not getting exposure to. It gives them good opportunities for volunteerism and letting them know how fortunate their lives are. Next slide. Why support the park? Like I said, I'm here to tell you why the park brings values to the residents of Weddington. Marvin. 700 Village of Marvin families utilize Optimus Park. And that could be 2 kids per family, 1 kid per family, 3 kids per family. So in terms of actual children, it's significantly higher than that. The park strengthens the community. Marvin schools utilize Optimus Park. Optimus Park increases property values and tax revenue. As a council person, I'm sure you all realize the importance of tax revenue. It conserves our natural environment. It provides scholarship opportunities for residents in the community of Marvin. It provides a place where children can learn and grow into responsible adults through organized sports programs. Let's go to the next slide. We talk about the park strengthens the community. This was a study done at Claremont McKenna College by Nicole Franklin. Research suggests that children's participation in organized sports is beneficial to academic achievement. To me, the more important element of this study is greater participation in organized sports is also linked with youth development, including the development of positive behavioral and social skills that cannot be attained inside the classroom. I'm an old guy. I'm not a big fan of Twitter and a lot of the back and forth. I think our kids lose that development of social skills. So this is a benefit to our kids here in Marvin. Next slide. I talked about Marvin schools utilize Optimus Park. I don't expect you to read that letter. It's pretty small font. But basically what it says is the Marvin Ridge lacrosse team utilizes Optimus Park. We get some pretty wet and rainy seasons around here. Marvin has a grass field, so they'll come over and utilize the artificial turf football field for their spring practices, and then it saves their field for games, and it also allows the lacrosse team to prepare for the season. The picture on the right is an alumni game that's held every year at Optimus Park, bringing in kids who have since graduated but played lacrosse here in the city of Marvin. Next slide. I also talk about Marvin schools utilize the park. This is a note we received from Tom Jamerson, Director of Athletics of Marvin Ridge High School. Because there is such a close relationship with the kids and the families in Marvin with Optimus Park, the Marvin Ridge High School extends courtesy to all WCWA families and athletes free admission to elementary students at all Marvin Ridge regular season athletics. You just have to show up with your WCWA jersey. So we work closely, and there's another, I think this reflects the benefits that's brought to Marvin. Let's go to the next slide. Marvin Creek. I think I've got the right name here. I'm not totally familiar with the subdivisions in Marvin, but this is an example. I said 700 families utilize the Optimus Park. It brings a benefit to the village of Marvin. Those red dots are families that utilize Optimus Park. You can see they're pretty well embedded in the community. As I said, that could be a family with one kid playing softball. It could be 3 kids, 2 of them playing Little League, 1 playing soccer, but I've just highlighted the household. You go to the next slide. I think this is the right one. This is a preserve at Marvin, same thing. I've laid in there, the red dots are families, and this is using 2019 data. And if I went back and got 2016 or 17, we'd probably have some more red dots, because a lot of times as kids age out of the program, they would no longer be reflected on here. So the point I'm trying to make is there is a value to the residents here in community within the town. Next slide. I talked about scholarship opportunities for Village of Marvin families. We all know college is expensive. These are some kids I've pulled off of the various sports. The ones in black, those are Marvin residents. Kids that live there. They're in college now. They've gone on scholarship. I don't know if you know any of these. Gabby Baylog, Drew Cognac. I actually have some letters I'm going to be sharing with you that Drew gave to me for this presentation. So there's another value that the park provides these kids. A lot of them start with Little League. Some of them start off with Pop Warner football at the park, then move on. They'll be playing at their high school teams, and then many of them are fortunate to get college opportunities. So as I've said, I try to point out to the council here the value the park brings to residents, the kids and families in the village of Marvin. We talked about development, we talked about scholarships, we talked how it's embedded to the families throughout the town of Marvin. I'd now like to go to the next slide. And here's what I want to ask for. I'm asking for $10,000 to $15,000 a year to support the park because of the value it brings to Marvin and the residents of Marvin. I feel good. And the reason I feel good, no one coughed, no one gasped, no one rolled their eyes, and more importantly, no one fell out of their chair. So this is good. I appreciate that. And the reason I say that is because, you go to the next slide. We're talking about $1.50 to $2 for each Village of Marvin residents. So I try to put in the value of the residents that you have. Another way to look at that is 12 to 16 cents a month for each Weddington Marvin of residents. And if I've done my calculations right, that would amount to about 0.7% of the Marvin budget. Okay, next slide. What are we going to do with this money? With annual support, it will allow for capital planning in the park. It's not to be used for, I'll say, operating maintenance. Be used for upgrades and ongoing park improvements. Artificial turf for the baseball fields, improved utilization. Artificial turf for the softball fields, improved utilization. When I say improved utilization, You have grass fields and generally dirt infields. You get rain, games get canceled, practices get canceled. That's one of the reasons Marvin Ridge Lacrosse uses the artificial turf field. We're talking about LED lighting. It reduces expense. Expansion of the walking trail to 2 miles. I pointed out earlier there's a half-mile walking trail. The plan is to expand that to 2 miles. We get a lot of moms and dads that brings their kids over to the park for practice or a game. Rather than drive back home, they'll stay in the park. Well, now we'll have an opportunity where mom, and I'll say mom because usually mom's the ones running to practice, not dad. And so there's a 2-mile park that can be walked for exercise or just enjoying the day while your kids are practice. Driveways and parking lots. Improving driveways and parking lots. Right now they tend to be gravel. Upgrade the bathrooms. If anyone's been to Optimus Park, how many people have been by Optimus Park? Then you know we are the Porta-John capital of Union County. The park spends $30,000 a year on Porta-Johns. Now eventually we're going to have nice bathrooms in there. Union County has already laid out where the sewer is going to be when it comes through the park. But this would be part of what this capital spending would be. And last but not least, I'm going to talk about more handicap accessibility. I'm really not looking at this in terms of, we talked about Take On Sports, where we have some handicapped children come in. This is really for grandma and grandpa. When they're coming in to watch their kids play a game, we have handicap parking there, but we need more, and we need it to be more accessible. So having said that, on the last slide, I'll open it up and say, are there any questions I could answer? I do have, I'm going to pass out to you here. I talked about Drew Cognac. He's a resident who...
Former mayor
Really?
of Marvin, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
I did not know that. Anyway, his kid's at Belmont College now. He sent me these. And he also... let me pass these around for the council people. There's 4 letters there, one from Drew, and then what he did, he reached out to some of his friends. Another one of them lives here in Marvin, and then the other 2 young men evidently are from Waxhaw, but they were friends of Drew who he met through Optimus Park. And basically these are letters saying how it's affected their lives and the importance it has been to them, and hopefully we'll be supportive of the Marvin Council looking at providing some support.
Mr. Dieter, if I just may make one comment before council addresses this. We currently do not have a policy for outside assistance, for outside agencies. That is something that the council probably wants to consider as we get your requests, and other requests will similarly come in. And it's not something that we typically account for budgetarily in our annual budget, so that's something that we really need to look at. I can bring the request up to the council at their next budget work session, and they can discuss it in full. But just for purposes of, just so you know, we typically don't have procedure in place for these types of requests currently.
Okay, and that's the reason I tried to schedule these. I'm meeting with, I've already met with Weddington, meeting with you guys today, and then I think it's March 9th I meet with Wesley Chapel. I mean, the park supports towns outside of that, but those are the 3 main towns that we have a major impact on. So I wanted to kind of get before you while you're in the budget process.
Absolutely. For purposes of your numbers too, Preserve is not in Marvin.
Preserve us.
Oh, I'm sorry. Preserve, I'm sorry. You're right.
Okay. Yeah, I thought they were. I was kind of going through the map there.
So I'm going to start, full disclosure, I know Phil was the former mayor of Weddington, if you guys don't know that, so thank you for that. First question was, how'd you get involved in this? Just because you've known about it, or?
Well, no, I mean, my kids, I don't have kids that are in this anymore. I haven't since I've lived here, but I was the former mayor of Weddington. Once the residents threw me to the curb because I'm retired. I'm looking for something else to do, so I joined the Optimus Club. And I'm now president of the Optimus Club. And the Optimus Club works very closely with the park.
Okay.
Like I said, 20 acres of that park is owned by the Optimus Club. And that's what got me involved.
So that was my next question. Who currently owns the Optimus? Because I know I was approached a number of years ago by WCWA. They were willing to even change the name because we were always looking for areas for, because if you don't make the high school team, then you're pretty much out of luck. You're going to, you know, some of these Charlotte, and you're driving far, so this was an avenue for our family, quite frankly. And they came to me, and what they were looking for was 50 acres at the time. And, you know, we had a potential here, and I even approached the members of the county that commissioners about getting Weddington, getting Marvin, getting Wesley Chapel to do a bond, to go out and instead of just those developers compete with the developers, instead of buying land to put more homes on it, let's find out where the land we could all share, that we could all use a bond to purchase and create something like this. In all fairness, and I'm going to speak freely if you don't mind, one of the issues I had as a member of WCWA is it's in a flood zone. And every time it rains, you get, you know, it floods out, and we find ourselves, the home games are away, meaning that because we can't even use the fields and stuff. So, so there's some concern about this as far as if we were to put money towards it, are they looking at, and how is it going to affect, because my understanding is the expansion of the road is going to take away a couple fields from the Optimus.
No, it won't.
It won't. Okay. So that's an update that I haven't had yet. But are they looking at how they?
Actually, the expansion of the road will actually help the park. The upper field, the 20 acres the Optimus Club owns are not in the flood zone, but the lower 34 acres are, a major portion of those are in a flood zone. When we get rain, you're gonna get some flooding. It's aggravated by the fact there's a creek that runs through there, and it basically clogs up at Highway 84. Because what used to be a small standpipe is now filled up with silt and stuff. Once they expand 84 to 2 lanes both way, major bridge, it'll do unclogging that bottleneck. It's still going to be a floodplain, don't get me wrong, but it will go significantly to reduce that flooding issue.
And then as far as the ownership, there is a separate owner that owns what?
2 separate owners. The I'll call them the top 20 acres are owned by the Optimus Club. I mean, we had some very, I'll say some guys with foresight that put in their own money and bought that land. And then WCWAA, which is Optimus Club is a nonprofit. WCWA is also a nonprofit. They purchased, back in the beginning, they took over managing the sports of the 20 acres the Optimus had. And it was kind of the Optimus, the coaches, basically the same group of people. Now WCWA purchased an additional 30 acres, 34 acres, something like that. And they own that portion of the park. The Optimus owns the other portion of the park, but the whole park is referred to as Optimus Park.
Okay. So it's only partially owned by Optimus. And Optimus, I'm not familiar with that group as far as that's a separate entity formed by who?
Optimus Club is an international organization based in St. Louis, kind of like the Rotary or the Lions, that kind of stuff. Okay. Just with a much lower profile, believe me, because a lot of people, who's the Optimist?
Right.
The Optimus Club, we focus our effort. Some of it is supporting the park, but a lot of it is we provide oratorical contests, essay contests. We do a laptop scholarship. A graduating senior from each of the 11 high schools in Union County, they write an essay and we award a laptop scholarship based on that. We help needy families at Christmas. I call them our good deeds.
And then another question I had, so I heard you say you're talking to Weddington and Wesley Chapel. Any other towns that?
No, I'll probably be talking to Union County. Union County in the past has supported Optimus Park. Last couple of years they haven't, not sure why, but we have some kids that live in unincorporated Union County. We have kids from Indian Trail, from Monroe, from Waxhaw, but those are the closest ones surrounding the park that get the greatest value from and have the greatest density of their residents. getting benefit from the park.
And I guess my question for that is because when we were looking at that years ago, trying to find land for them and what they needed and what we would expect it to be, what got tricky is the public-private partnership. And, you know, we're looking at public funds to actually help with a somewhat private entity, if you will. But when you look at 600 families and what is that percentage of Marvin, it's something to look at because you got the school activities. If you don't make high school or middle school activities, which are limited, then where do these kids go for that? So there's some validity to look
It is a nonprofit. The town of Weddington fund provides funds. They haven't in the past. They have in the past. There's actually a baseball field, field number 6. It's got a little sign on it, Town of Weddington Field. Some of those fields have signs. A family gave a significant amount of money, one-time shot, and it's in memoriam. I think it was their son. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. Wesley Chapel has given funds in the past. That's the reason I'm approaching them again, and Union County has given funds in the past. So they have the major emphasis.
So that leads to my next question. So WCWAA stands for Wesley Chapel Weddington Athletic Association. So would they consider, if we were to give funds and create that as a budget spot, if this were to pass and stuff, would they consider renaming it?
Sure.
Okay. And then finally, are you guys approaching any individual funding, like individuals?
Individuals?
Yes.
That's done on an ongoing basis. I'm specifically not. I'm focused on the 3 towns in the county. I'm president of the Optimus Club, but I'm here to try to raise funds for WCWAA, which encompasses the whole
And
park.
is it a 501(c)(3)?
Yes.
It
Yes.
is, okay.
Optimus Club is, and WCWAA is.
Okay. That's all the questions I had for it. If you guys counsel, I'll open
No,
it up
that's,
to you
I mean,
guys.
yeah, mine were kind of the same. And you answered the Weddington Wesley Chapel. And my other thing was, you know, let's just say that Weddington Wesley Chapel said, we're not doing it. Marvin said, we're not doing it. What other options of funding were you, and you kind of asked that question, but what other options of funding would you consider or look at, or?
If we don't get support from any of the ongoing like we do now, I mean,
Okay.
some of it is families get their kids signing up for sports.
Yeah.
It increases those fees,
costs.
those costs.
Yeah.
We do fundraising events.
Okay.
Optimus Club, we sell Christmas trees every year, and the profits from that. So it's primarily fundraising or fees paid by the parents or donations.
Yeah. I mean, one good thing you always see is like, you know, you buy a brick for $1,000, a family buys a brick and gets to put their name on it. It's a great way to, you know, establish something in perpetuity that, you know, it's a family member, but that's not just a suggestion as I'm thinking, but if we're not able to.
Yeah. And when you give your presentation to Wesley Chapel in Weddington, are you asking for the 10,000 the same?
Weddington, I've already made the presentation to Weddington. I asked them for 20 to 25,000.
Okay.
And
How many families from Weddington?
Pardon?
How many families from Weddington are?
1,400,
Okay.
and I think it's like 500 from Wesley Chapel.
That makes sense.
I've already got, obviously, being the former mayor of Weddington, I have some contacts. I've had some discussion with the finance director, and she said, we're not going to give you 20 to 25, but pretty good chance we'll give you 10 to 15.
Appreciate
We're looking for anything we can to help support the park.
it. Okay. Kim?
No, I mean, the way it was sounding was that it was you just sign up and the families don't have to pay. But it sounds like, I mean, that's kind of the way that it was coming off to me, was that this is a free service to the community, but in reality, families are paying to.
Yes, families are paying. That's where some of the
Right, so-
funding comes.
And you're paying for high school activities too. So regardless if
Okay.
you make the high school team and you'll find this out as your child gets
Yeah.
older, if your kid doesn't make the high school team, you're gonna still pay for that, and whether it's booster club or whatever. Jamie, you can attest to that being on the booster club. or you're gonna pay for to get them on a team to do it. So either way, families are paying. It's just, my whole thing, as long as I've been here, is we have no park or anything that, because we can't do anything over at Eford. And we have no athletic facility, which my eye was on this property right here down the road that was sold to a developer. They're gonna put 75 homes in.
And the park's in Weddington?
Yes. And it's more than just athletics. Athletics is a huge part of it. But in part of the presentation, I was trying to talk about development of social skills, academic skills, giving the kids opportunities to volunteer, as when I talked about to take on sports. So while athletics are great, I think there are other side benefits. Building community, you can see these 4 letters, these 4 kids started off. 2 of them are from Marvin, 2 of them are from Waxhaw, but yet they create those lasting bonds and relationships. So it's in my mind, it provides a better value to the citizens of the various towns and their children. Okay?
No, I was pretty much on your end. I was looking for, when I was first seeing this and thinking of the baseball fields, I was looking at the visual that if we're going to do something like this, and we would want to at least show the residents of Marvin that we're doing this, would we have any kind of logos? Would we have any kind of signage at the baseball
Sure.
fields? That would say municipal donor. I mean, something to let, to your point, to let people know that we're trying to provide opportunity for the citizens.
In the end, anything, and knowing how my kids have been in the WCAA, and I was a coach there at one point, knowing the limitations of bathrooms, for instance, and all those things, and the grandparents that go there and stuff. I mean, what this does is help keep those costs down for if you're a family member and your kid's going to go play. And they have to consider all these different things. I mean, one of the biggest things was the dirt road, gravel road that goes in there, and how much I used to dread going in there after I washed my car, and because it was a mess. But it is what it is. But all those
portion of it has been asphalted.
Okay, yes,
but there's still a major portion there that is gravel road. Yeah.
But it would help, I guess, contain the cost of this if it's something that we put our name on or something like that. That may be something that. Maybe if you're on the fence or something like that, and we'll have to look at the funding and how.
I'm sure WCWA is open, very open to altering the name to incorporate all of the towns. An example would be baseball field number 6 says Town of Wedding. There could be a baseball field, a soccer field, a girls softball field that says Village of Marvin.
Okay.
Okay?
Any other questions?
No.
All right.
No.
Well, we will-
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks so much, Phil.
Thank you.
Did you download a copy of that in case?
I did, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you. Next up, we have Union County Sheriff's Office, Lieutenant Brian Keziah. Sorry about the.
All right.
So I wanted to introduce Lieutenant Kazai. He is actually over our deputy, Stephen Eason. I know there's some questions about kind of operationally how they function in terms of calls for service outside of the district. So he's here to answer some of those questions for you, specifically in terms of operational contract questions that we may have. I need to actually make an appointment with the sheriff and potentially their finance department to go over some of those questions. So he can't answer specific contract questions, but operationally, as far as recs are concerned, calls for service, how they're handled, that sort of thing, he's here to answer any questions. He's not prepared for any type of presentation, just here to ask questions and just have some discussion with you all for your questions that need to be answered.
Well, I think that's been, in my view, and I'll start first, is been the issue is,
Shocking.
well, what gets the ball rolling. The issue has really been the contract, I think, and that's been the biggest concern as I talk to other towns and stuff, is how do we, if I'm going into any contract, yes, absolutely. If I'm walking into any contract, You would think, and I'm just talking me individually, I would have some say in what that contract looks like. And as long as I've been here, it's basically presented to us and here's our cost. And this is what it is and stuff. Because we basically, and this is the opinion of one, as I always like to say, this is us that you have a choice between this or this. I mean, we don't have a choice right now. We don't have a separate law enforcement officer. We still pay taxes to Union County that supposedly provides the service. What we're trying to do is
Extra service.
extra service, and that's what we are paying for in our 5 cents that we charge. And to add another officer, in all fairness, that would increase what we estimated about 25% of our tax. It would go from 5 cents to 6 cents.
Okay.
It takes about a penny to add one officer full-time, which I'm not opposed to, but then again, we gotta look at the documents and the studies that say, okay, are we having a problem right now? And I know in talking to Sheriff's Department in the past that they wanna get ahead of any problems. As we are building out and you're seeing all these more developments in comes the crime, if you will, as that happens, or potentially. So that's been one of my sticklers, that it's like, okay, we're paying for an officer, perfect example. We have money set aside to have an officer sit there and direct traffic. We are paying for that officer to direct traffic so traffic can move in the evenings during school. However, if there's a call that happens to be a domestic dispute, whatever it is, and he happens to be the closest one to it, he has to leave that post and then go take care of that call. It's the way I understand it. And that I get, but it's like, isn't there, has Union County not figured out a way to, address that issue? Because we're paying for it, you expect to get service. Same thing if we're paying for our Union County officer to, that part of that 40 hours, and then because he happens to be the closest one, he has to go to Mineral Springs to take a call, then that pulls him away from us. That has been how the contract reads to us, and it's like, well, then what are we paying for? That's, to me, it's almost a Union County thing, and this is, if you can't answer it, that's fine. At least you take that back to your superiors and stuff, and and just figure out, like, how do we address that, or how do we have a say in this contract?
So, Mr. Mayor, your concerns primarily financially questions with the contract, or are they as far as operational? What is it that we able to have say so in?
I don't think, it's not my pay grade. The operational part of it and stuff, I would leave that to the experts and say, if that's how you operationally want to run things, I mean, I'm here to learn and what makes best sense, what are other towns doing that make good sense, because I'm not here to say that. But we're stewards of the taxpayer money, and it's like, how is that being used? If we're paying taxes in Union County and that provides an officer for us, then what are we getting if we're paying above and beyond and getting a separate officer at 40 hours? And we're not full-time yet, we're only 40 hours, is my understanding.
So I can speak in terms of financially how the contract works is, like you had mentioned, they figure out what it costs for one officer, the equipment that's associated with that officer, any benefits that might, health insurance, cost of living allowance, anything that is associated with the actual true cost of what that officer costs the county. And they basically turn around, pass that buck to us. So it's pretty much tit for tat in terms of financially. Now, in terms of operationally, in the terms of the contract, if we, like you had mentioned, out of service calls or out of district calls, operationally, we may have some say-so in that, but we need to have a little bit of direction as to what we are asking for specifically, so we can go to that sheriff and kind of negotiate that.
I think what I'm hearing is that when they're here working their 40 hours, they need to be here working their 40 hours and not getting called to the other side of the county or to the next town over because they are. And if they are, and they spend 2 hours doing that, that's fine, but then we get that 2 hours back in either a credit or additional time, or another officer from somewhere else comes over here and hangs out for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing?
That technically should be a Union County cost, not a Village of Marvin cost,
Right.
if it's in
So
another
is that what I'm
town.
hearing from you?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a
So
very good
can you
thing.
speak in terms of how it works when there is a out-of-district call and how often they leave? And did you happen to get numbers for
So as best as I can speak, again, the contract, I don't have any say in that. The way I understand the contract is, just like you said, the county says, this is the contract, here it is. You know, want it, not, and I really don't know. My best understanding is the county, I guess, finance director, county
And it's the
manager.
county, it's not the sheriff's department, correct? It is Union
Correct,
County.
Union County.
So that's who we need to have come in
It
then.
comes from Union County.
What does?
The contract.
It's
The
not the
sheriff's
sheriff's
office-
office, it's Union, and that's what we learned at
Right.
that dinner. It's
Right.
not the sheriff's office.
doesn't
They don't
write that
manage it,
contract.
correct.
Basically, like Christina said, the sheriff's office, to my understanding, provides to the county finance, okay, this is what a deputy makes, this is what a car costs, this is what a radar costs, and it gives a cost breakdown to the county and says, this is what it costs to fund one deputy with all their training, their car and all that. And then the county, I'm assuming, turns around and puts that in a contract and gives that to you guys.
Yeah, so then it's more for us, it's more than how it's implemented in the terms of what are we getting for that money? Meaning that if we are hiring separate and above because we have our own municipality, I want to know that my officer that I'm paying for, then that response time, if he's on schedule at that time, that response time goes from, you know, a typical 15, 20 minutes if you've ever had to call the officer. I know I've had the, whatever it is, to a lot faster because I know he's within 5 miles of our town and he's not.
It's 6
going-
minutes.
Yeah.
That's his, that was, we gotta think, Steven started March, April-ish. So for 2019, his response time was like a little over 6 minutes.
When he's on.
Correct.
And
correct.
when he's on, and that's only 40 hours of how many hours in a week?
It's really not even 40 hours, right? Like there's training time, like there's, so it's
Good.
really not even 40 hours.
Well, it
How many hours
depends
in a
on, it
week?
depends on what week it is. You know, if he doesn't have training that week, then he's here, you know.
But if he
for
does, then
40
it's
hours.
not 40 hours.
So, but
Correct,
my
yeah.
point is 40 hours out of 24 hours of the day out of 7 days a week, that percentage wise, he's not here a lot. If you really want a full-time officer, you've got, there's overlap and there's, you know,
Oh, yeah.
who's
No.
here at 3 in the morning and then we look at, okay, before we bring another officer on, what times are we gonna ask? And I don't even know if we have control of that.
We do.
Because, well,
We do.
we did it in the past where the
We do
officer would
now.
be able to write his own times and, because, and I understand it because it worked with his, you know, family as far as getting kids to school and stuff like that, but it is what it is.
Contractually, we don't have control over it. However, in practice, Stephen and I sit down and we go over peak calls for service and we determine what we think is the most suitable.
And that's great.
But again, that's,
However, he may not be here forever, and you can work with him now.
Yeah, that's true.
I would want that in a contract
That's what I-
going forward that's saying, regardless of what officer we get, we should be able to dictate when we want, based on the data you provide us of when our issues, when we're having the most issues. If it's during the daytime, that's when I'm gonna want the full-time officer there. Wouldn't that make sense?
I think we can handle that. I think we can.
Okay,
work that out.
I just would want it in,
yeah, but
again,
that
it goes
needs
back
to
to
be-
the
I
contract.
agree with you. That's the kind of stuff that needs to be in the contract.
Yeah, I think we can do
And
that.
there's a lot of stuff that needs to be addressed that's in the contract that just doesn't work. So if we decided to say, okay, we don't want an officer, we're still in Union County, so we still have coverage, correct?
Yeah, there will be a deputy. So this Marvin is in, so our county, you kind of saw in the, I don't know if the chief had a slide in there, but our county is broken up into 4 zones. So this Marvin is considered zone 4, but just know that it goes from here, it goes all the way to Cane Creek, and it goes all the way to Monroe, at Newtown and Rocky River, and then even further, all the way over to 200 South. So
Zone 4?
Zone 4 is a huge zone. Generally speaking, on a sheriff's patrol squad, you're probably going to have 2 Zone 4 cars during a 12-hour period.
So,
I mean, I'm not saying that's what we're gonna do.
Right.
I'm just-
No,
Yeah,
I'm just
right
saying. So I
now-
guess what you're looking at is that 6-minute response time is going to go to your
Sure.
15-minute
Yeah.
response time if they're clear on the other side of Zone 4.
So right now, and how long have you been involved with the Marvin area, Zone 4, if you will?
Well, I just took over
Okay.
this new position in October.
Okay, so, but you have a good idea. Where do you think we stand right now? Is it looking like we need another officer, or is it, in
The
your
Sheriff's
opinion?
Department says yes.
Well, I'm asking, and I want to hear it, and it's on record, and
I
so
don't
we
have
know.
an opinion either way. You know, I can tell you just from looking at numbers, you know, the 40 hours that Steven's here and looking at past year's numbers, he's knocked the response time down in half.
Okay.
When he's here, looking at, so you have to look at calls for service, which is if you pick up a telephone and call 911, that's considered a call for service. And then we also have self-initiated calls, which would be Steven being here at work, you know, going by the park and getting out, walking around, talking to people, or stopping a car, or doing a business check, or riding through a neighborhood, whatever, any of those self-initiated calls. He did like 1,200 of those last year from March to April, which is a lot. So like 77% of the self-initiated calls in Marvin were all Steven.
So, and I know it may be what we consider, do we bring another officer? Would, in your opinion, would the sheriff's department consider a sharing with another town such as Weddington? So Weddington may be on the fence, we may be on the fence, and with those two towns on the fence and that attach, that let's consider sharing that officer. And I know there's a way you can do it and bill it, if you will, and is that an opportunity for us?
And again, that's gonna be way above me, so
Okay.
the chief and the sheriff ultimately, and then the county manager and county finance who
And Mr.
create the contract.
Mr. Mayor, we had this conversation yesterday, Brian and I did, and we really want to sit down and look at the statistics as far as what are the calls for service in Weddington, what are the calls for service in the other municipalities that we're considering doing this share to really determine the percentage of what it is that we need, what it is they need, and figure out financially how it all makes sense. So we will continue to have those discussions. I have spoken with both Weddington and Wesley Chapel, and again, I think somebody had said we may be on the fence, they may be on the fence. It's just a conceptual plan right now, and I think everyone seems to think that it sounds good, it looks good, but we want to actually see the raw numbers to determine if it actually makes sense to do so. So we're still having those ongoing conversations, but to your point, we would need to get the sheriff and.
In full disclosure, I've had conversations with other council members from other towns that are concerned about, you know, their lack of control in the contract. So they're trying to figure out, is there an opportunity to team up as separate and say, look, could we create another department that services just those three towns? I mean, that's what they're talking about, so to let you know. So does it make sense? Probably not, because of the cost of incorporating that. Or does it make sense to contract with a police department right down the road at Waxhaw and say, you know, and slap on their signs that say Marvin?
Waxhaw doesn't have jurisdiction in Union County, they only have jurisdiction in Waxhaw.
Is that correct? Okay, so they can't
Just like
do
Monroe
anything in-
Police, they can't come into Union County and arrest you.
However, if we have a contract with them to
Doesn't
create
matter.
that, and we create our own police force, and
Now, if you created your own police force, maybe, you know, if you use like some G4S or something like that, like a company police.
Mhm.
But as far as I know, like Waxhaw only has jurisdiction in Waxhaw.
This is something we looked at last year around this time, or whenever we looked at it initially when I went and spoke with Waxhaw and Stallings. And I don't know the laws behind how you're accredited and that sort of thing, but you can only be assigned jurisdictionally to one particular area from whoever.
Well, you
accredited.
have, so law enforcement has territorial jurisdiction. So if you're a municipal police department in the city limits of the municipality you're in, you only have arrest powers in that. Now, if you guys, like, you know, several years ago, Indian Trail talked about creating their own police department, then yes, if Indian Trail created their own police department, did whatever they needed to do to have a police
it would
department,
still
then
fall
yes.
under Union County, though, I would assume.
No, it would be its own
Separate.
separate
Okay.
police department. So
Okay.
just like Monroe, you know, Monroe's in Union County, Monroe has their own police department.
Okay, I
And they
see.
service just the city of Monroe and have arrest powers just in the city of Monroe.
How do you get the arrest powers? Like, could Monroe obtain arrest powers in this jurisdiction? Okay.
So,
Not that I'm aware of.
One
not unless there's
one of
some
the
law.
things is, and again, I'm trying to skin the cat, you and I were on the HOA board at Firethorn, and we had concerns about certain times and things that were happening. However, and this is something maybe to bring back to your office and stuff, if you can't make this call, but my understanding is also is if we want to hire, for instance, an officer to direct traffic, you are requiring, number one, 2 people there, which is fine, but you're also requiring a minimum of 3 hours. So when we were on the HOA board, I remember talking to other HOAs of neighborhoods and saying, look, if you're having 4 or 5 different neighborhoods are having issues, then those 4 or 5 neighbors within their own HOA, and the way I foresee this happening is the county bills the town for that time that we then bill the HOAs for that cost of an officer that's gonna go to Firethorn, to Marvin Creek, because we could never do in Firethorn an officer for 3 hours. It would drive our neighbors crazy if they just drove around our neighborhood. But he could do, potentially, if we can hire them to direct traffic, could we not hire them to take care of Firethorn, Marvin Creek, the Preserve, maybe another few communities, and then have the HOAs, if it is an issue in their community, pay it where it's not on Marvin to have to, because we're not really seeing, is that a potential?
So we have an off-duty coordinator, and I think Christina has already spoke to him about an issue with the traffic off-duty. Jay Scholler is our off-duty, that's all he does is handles all of our off-duty. I think what you're talking about, the 3 hours, the way I understand it, it's a 3-hour pay minimum. I don't necessarily have to be there for 3 hours, but if I'm there for an hour or an hour and 20 minutes, you still have to pay 3 hours, so.
He's talking, y'all are talking about 2 different things. He's talking about basically HOAs coming together and saying, hey, we'd like some more support over here, but we know the village isn't able to pay for it now. We're willing to accept it and pay for it ourselves.
I thought that's how it worked anyways.
Knowing, not with HOAs, and not with particular HOAs, like if they want
Okay.
additional traffic control. He's talking about 3 HOAs team together and say, hey, we want 60 hours a month. We'll split it all up, we'll figure it out. In turn, y'all would contract with us, we would contract with the HOAs, they would give us the money. So financially, y'all are working a deal with us. Financially, we're working a deal with the HOAs. So he's basically talking about shared
I see
service.
what you're
It
saying.
becomes a financial or an accounting nightmare for the sheriff's department to bill the HOAs and stuff like that, whereas we as a town can say, you know what, we're not having problems in all areas. We could foresee something once Marvin Gardens gets built and you have all that, commercial business, all of a sudden now we're starting to have crime over there in those neighborhoods, but it's not over here. But they team up with other HOAs, and I'm again, it's because of the minimum of when because I called, this was years ago, I called the sheriff's department and said, well, you need 3-hour minimum. If we're gonna bring an officer out with a car, you're gonna need 3-hour minimum.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure all of our off-duty is 3-hour minimum. So.
And that's fine, but what I'm saying is that Firethorn, because I was just one neighborhood, 3 hours in our neighborhood of an officer just going around would
Drive people crazy.
it would drive people crazy.
We could actually
Yeah.
have a joint meeting with HOAs and Scholler
Yeah.
and just bring up the concept and see.
I mean, I can't see any constituent being like, sure, I'm gonna pay some extra money, you guys need to be taking care of this for us. I mean, the village. I mean, that's
See,
that's me as a homeowner, I'd be like, you
think-
guys need to take care of that.
Jay will probably be able to answer that a lot better than I, because that's what he does on a daily basis. But as far as I know, I mean, we work, obviously there are lots of neighborhoods that contract us, Bonterra, Brandon Oaks, and to my knowledge, when a deputy works that payment comes straight from that management company, not the town of Indian Trail or not the town of,
That was the pushback I got when I originally proposed that idea, because there was another HOA person I was talking to, and they said, we should consider,
I think
together.
if HOAs wanna do that, then they can reach out to the sheriff's department themselves.
right, and that's usually how it
then it
happens.
becomes
I think that's governmental
the pushback
overreach on
was
our part to be
yeah, but
trying to
it
do
was,
that.
the pushback was the accounting nightmare,
Well,
that how do I
he
bill
just,
so-and-so?
Brian just said that you've got other neighborhoods doing it, so if HOAs wanna do it, then feel free to reach out to the sheriff's department. If they have trouble, then they can get up with us if they really wanna do something. I don't think we need to be pushing that.
Well,
We can, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, I think we're just in an unfortunate position right now with the community, and as fractured as this community is, when you look at it on the map, that, you know, I'm sitting here listening to all this, and it's because we're stuck between, are we big enough for this, or we're not big enough for this, and we're kind of stuck in the middle. We need to have, I mean, the survey comes out, and the survey says we need additional security. So what are the means do we go about doing that? And I believe that's another, you know, you're kind of twisted because you have these other neighborhoods that still get representation
Without taxation.
right. And so, you know, we're really kind of stuck in the middle, and we have to just make the best of it until we can get to a place where we're in that position to go, okay, we're large enough to do this. We need to look at the sheriff's department and say, we have to add this, you know, extra full-time or whatever the case may be, charges for it. I mean, the survey didn't say, hey, try to add more security, but don't charge us for it. The survey says, we want more security, even if you have to charge us more for it, we're ready for it, because we see what we have. So that's just an observation and it's not a solution. Try not to speak if I don't have a solution.
Yeah, no, and I do like the idea of trying to team up with some other municipalities that are close by, because we could end up spending less money and getting almost full-time coverage. So I would really like to explore that and really try to nail down the numbers, because I mean, it's a win-win for everybody, including the sheriff's department, because we would be adding an extra person, essentially.
I agree in the extra person, and when you and I and Christina were at the dinner, the conference that we went to, I know that when they were looking at the statistics of the populations versus how much coverage, Wesley Chapel was starting to get, you know, if you remember, the sheriff was sort of saying to Wesley Chapel, you really need to consider, and they really did need to consider. So having another person, and I agree with you, Kim, and I think if there's a sharing going on, because that person was on the fence. I know the mayor was on the fence about that and whether they should get it, and you know, could they afford it or not. All right, well, maybe let's work with other municipalities.
So in your opinion, in that meeting, was it Wesley Chapel needed another one
Yeah.
because of the size or because of what they have as far as commercial?
No, I think that I don't have any of the sheets, but I think I wrote some notes that it was like statistically the population was.
Christina took a picture
I mean-
of, they put a slide up,
Yeah.
basically showing like, so Monroe Police Department showed their population of Monroe, how many officers they have,
Yeah.
and what their operating budget is, and then compared it to Indian Trail, which is our biggest contract. And, you know, population wise, Indian Trail is bigger than the city of Monroe. There's more residents in Indian
Yeah.
Trail. And we have far less deputies in Indian Trail than Monroe, and the budget is far smaller than, that's what the slide was.
Okay.
But they also said that Marvin basically needs another one.
Yeah.
And part of that too was because we've got a big commercial development coming in.
Yes.
And they were like, you're gonna need to be
And-
concerned about that.
And we brought that up, but you know, with obviously Publix and everything, they just say, you know, while you're doing any kind of commercial, it's going to attract issues.
Yeah, I mean,
And-
you know, you got tractors and grading equipment and equipment going into businesses and things like that sitting out for people just to run by and take it. So
Yeah.
I think that's what the chief was probably getting at as far
Mhm.
as when you're building stuff, you usually see a spike in theft.
Weddington, I have the numbers pulled up. Weddington has a population of right at 11. They've got 3 deputies. Marvin.
Full-time?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And these numbers are probably based on the previous year census estimates, but it says Marvin has 6,500. I think we're actually at 6,900. We have 1. Wesley Chapel is at 89, and they have 1.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think our concern, in all fairness, is
Sounds
more
like
contract,
contractual.
you know, and you know,
I can't answer your question.
and
contract wise.
no issues with, you know, Stephen.
So I will bring the contract at the next agenda, and we can talk about it. Work session. Is that okay, or would
Do
y'all
we
rather-
have they come out with the updated this year's?
I'm not positive.
I
know
feel like
we
it's
had-
gotta be soon.
Yeah, I know when we
April
had.
1st is usually when we
Yeah,
get it.
I know when we had the meeting, and it usually is April-ish, because I think it tries to give you guys.
I just
several
find it
months.
hard to believe that the sheriff's department is not involved in the contract and it's coming from Union County.
It is.
I-
The Union County Finance guy
I
was
think,
there.
I know, but I think, I
Right?
find that amazing
Yeah.
that's how they do it, that the sheriff's department, who actually runs the department and
But it's
knows
because
the
they're
ins and
funded
outs.
by the county.
I get that, but they still should have some say in what that language is in the and that's where we have the problem is, you know,
Well,
if we're
we
gonna
just
pay
need
for
to-
it, what are we gonna get
We
for
just
what
need
we
to talk
pay
to
for?
Union County then.
They've probably had the language in that contract for years and has never really had any issues with it, and so the sheriff probably initiated it years ago with finance, and they just never.
I just was curious when that all changed, because when we approached them years ago about, when they wanted another officer, that the sheriffs never said, it's the county that you gotta go to talk to the issue. That was
Well,
what they said, so.
I think what I'm trying to say is, yes, the contract comes from the county. I would imagine, like you're saying, there is some input from the sheriff, but the contract itself is drawn up by the county as far as I know, and it's presented to you guys.
Sounds like three of us have to sit down, the municipalities,
Yep.
municipalities, and that's including Weddington, when we're all sitting down, and I think that's what they wanna get to.
And that's the
is
sheriff's
they-
department and
Yeah.
the county.
Because they look at it, when they call me, they look at it as there is power in numbers. We need to team up with Wesley Chapel, Weddington, and go into them as a group, saying, because we're all municipalities, we're not unincorporated Union County. We're municipalities representing our residents who pay taxes. We should have something, otherwise then the opportunity rises to do something
So,
separate.
can you get up with Union County and the sheriff's department and any other municipalities that may wanna go in with us and figure out who,
And call special meeting for it.
okay, and two of us, and then go and have a meeting or have a special meeting, I don't care, but we all need to sit down. You need to figure out who, if Union County is the one, we know that Union County is the one that gives us the contract, but does the sheriff's department have input in it? If we wanna change stuff, which entity
Who
is
can
the
make that
one?
happen?
So
Yeah,
I can schedule a meeting with the two municipalities that we've talked about. If two of y'all would like to attend that meeting, and then we can kind of update the rest of the board at the next meeting, along with the
Yeah, but
sheriff.
it doesn't make any sense, and that makes sense to meet with them maybe first to say how do we want to approach the county, but at some point, and our budget is due in June, but some point between now and then, that meeting with the county, whoever can make the changes that we want, and if that includes the sheriff's department, great, and if that includes, all of those entities, we're all sitting down together in a big room, whether it's a special meeting or not, and come to some sort of,
Right.
what are the key things we want in that contract?
So sheriff, finance, two municipalities, two of y'all, we all sit together, figure it out, and then we'll move forward from there.
By June.
well, yeah, sooner than that, but if the other municipalities wanna do this.
Okay,
So
can I
you-
get the two of you so I can make sure that we're all on the same page? What two want to be involved in?
Wednesdays at
the
10
discussion?
o'clock, I'm in.
I mean, I can do it.
Kim and Joe?
I'll make myself
Okay.
available, of course. But I don't have a vote.
Right.
Making.
So I can give you, I'm sorry. It'll either be Patrick, which is the assistant county manager, or I can never remember his name. He spoke at the, right at the end. He's the finance guy. I can never remember.
For the
his name.
county?
Yes.
Okay.
So.
Not
and
Commissioner
then-
Helms.
No,
No, not.
He works for the county.
Yeah, he works for the county. He's the.
Budget analyst.
Yeah, he's the budget director, he's the budget director. And then,
That's
it'll probably be the chief deputy,
Yeah.
Chief
Yeah.
Gilmore.
Is that who spoke?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the sheriff was there, but
Yeah, but
the chief did the presentation.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll get all that arranged.
Perfect. Okay, good. Brian,
All right.
thank you so much
Yes.
for coming in.
All right, y'all have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Will you speak to them real fast about traffic,
oh, yeah.
wrecks and the priorities that y'all respond to and not respond to?
So, I know that the chief talked in the meeting about, we just finished the last set of classes to get all of our guys, rec certified. So, several years ago, we were not working recs at all. It was all highway patrol. And it just got to be where we were getting the wrecks way quicker than highway patrol would, because, you know, highway patrol is very understaffed, and they're covering a whole district, all of Union County. There may be one trooper working the entire county. And you may be down at Anson and may have a wreck up here. So it's a lot easier for us to get there. And then we've had a lot of guys coming from municipalities like police departments who work wrecks. Generally speaking, sheriff's offices don't work wrecks. But our sheriff, being a former highway patrolman, says let's work wrecks. It's just easier for us to do them. So a PD wreck, or just a property damage wreck, you know, somebody, you know, runs a stop sign, hits somebody, nobody's really injured. All of our guys are able to work that wreck. A PI wreck, where somebody has some type of bad injury, probably not going to work those. Probably going to let highway patrol, because there's other things that they're involved with it, as far as that person being hurt and, you know, the driver being charged with other things that may have to come up. So, but we will work some minor PI wrecks. So, you know, I broke my leg, you know, probably work something like that. But something life-threatening, probably highway patrol, because obviously charges are going to be much greater. So that's kind of
But
the
you
way.
guys will still respond to it and be there.
Yeah, if somebody is available and is able to respond, we're going to respond to it.
To anything.
Yes, usually.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you just can't take the
Yeah, if it-
documentation down. You can go there and maybe direct traffic and
things
stuff like that.
Yes,
That makes
yes.
sense.
So a fatality, we're not going to work because there's a lot of.
But you'll still go
Yeah.
there initially. Yeah.
Just like,
Yeah.
you know, just
Okay.
like any fatality, our guys are gonna go there, highway patrol's probably gonna show up. You know, until they say you guys can clear, we're probably gonna hang out and, you know, help them with traffic, whatever the case may be. But your simple, you know, rear end PD wrecks, running a stop sign, things like that,
And that is effective as of when?
Now,
yeah, we just finished up, the beginning of February.
Okay.
The last couple of classes, so I can't remember the amount of deputies we put through it. I think 75, 80 deputies.
so Steven's good to go.
Yes, Stephen's rec certified.
I was involved, I saw an incident, it was creating traffic issues, and I took it upon myself to get out and actually
Direct traffic?
and pulled the guy out, because it was raining and they went off the side. And then because they went off the side, they were blocking traffic at the intersection over here, so I got a tow rope out.
Look at you, Joe.
And,
You
but,
were
but
like,
here's the problem.
Jack
It's like
Wolford.
I asked immediately, did you call 911 or anyone? They said, oh yeah, and it had been, and eventually state patrol showed up. Not local municipality, which I thought would have been a lot quicker, and they could have probably used their car to, you know, the bumpers in the front or something to push them out or get people out of the
Right.
way. But it was
Just bear in mind too that our primary focus is not going to be highway
to get
patrol.
them out of the way.
Highway patrol's primary focus is traffic investigations, wrecks. So, you know, they don't have calls for service coming in like
Yeah.
we do, domestics, break-ins, things like that.
Believe it
So-
or not, the person who tried to go around the person who stalled, all that they had to do is an officer had to come up with their bumpers and push that car out of the way so it would allow the roundabout to continue working. Nobody was there, and it was probably 40 minutes, which was creating a huge backup. So having that available, my point to this is having the town, municipal, our local sheriff's department being able to do that will be a nice.
Oh, yeah. So Stephen is rec certified. To answer your question, yes.
Very
One
good.
quick question that I
Yes,
had, when we're talking about off-duty, do off-duty respond to out-of-jurisdiction calls? Do you know that answer?
I'm not gonna say they don't, because there are cases that they may.
You're talking our off-duty up here at the corner.
Yeah,
So then if they leave, we don't have to pay them their 3 hours, correct?
That'll be a question for Jay Shore.
okay.
That's that question.
And
So what they should probably do is if they leave, then they should probably work. Well, I know what I would do. If I had to leave for some reason for 30 minutes, then I would just stay 30 minutes longer than what the schedule
Yeah.
was.
We'll ask.
Yeah.
But yes, there may be an instance where, especially if it's, you know, some type of priority call and the closest car is them and you got somebody else 20 minutes away, then yeah.
so just out of curiosity, do they have arresting authority or any kind of
yeah.
ability to, while they're on?
Yeah.
Okay,
absolutely.
just
Yeah.
making that clear.
They're a deputy.
Because you were saying some officers don't have jurisdiction in certain areas, so
But
I
they're
was just,
Union County.
I understand that, but they're also on a, we're hiring them part-time and stuff, and is it just a direct traffic?
They have full arrest powers,
Okay,
working off
perfect.
duty just like they would if they're on duty.
Perfect. I don't have any more questions, and I'm
Sure.
sure you're happy about that.
Sure. Okay, we good?
We'll talk after then.
All right.
Okay,
Brian,
all
why
right,
don't you say
thank
hi?
y'all. Y'all
Thank you.
take
Thank you.
care.
All right, see what happens when I miss a meeting and it's like.
See what happens when I run the meeting?
Yeah, I've got questions, I'm sorry. Next up, we have a pre-application meeting for rezoning of commercial corridor district at the corner of Bonds Grove Church and Providence Road. And developers. I assume that's you.
I'm Chirag Patel. Morning, guys.
Morning.
I'll take the box here.
And what's your name?
Chirag Patel.
Sure. I saw that. Okay.
All right. So I guess we had quite a few meetings over the last year showing the overall plan that we wanted to pursue. But then I think last meeting, maybe November, December timeframe, we decided that we maybe need to have an informal discussion with you guys. That was originally recommended as a optional council meeting. Supposed to happen first before we dive into the actual planning phase. But our understanding was it was optional. This site was already thought of as a commercial zoned, or not zoned, but at least it was planned for it in future. So we dived directly into the planning phase.
So I want to stop you there. I don't know if it was planned. It was put on there by a person on the planning board that just said this could potentially. Never, these guys don't know this because they weren't here, but it was never discussed in the council of that being ever commercial. It was just someone in planning board suggesting, oh, this could potentially be so.
Yeah, I guess in the
And
last
that's why
meeting we
we'd
got
rather have
that
you
clarification.
talk to us first before they spend all this money and go forward with a plan that we never even agreed to in the beginning. But I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to clarify that.
No, that's good. I appreciate that. And in the last meeting, we realized that it was never the intention. I think somebody had just marked it up as such a few years back. And when we initially started our investigation, we thought that it was part of your future plan to commercialize this zone. So anyways, but here we are. I guess today I'm here, I don't have any presentations. I mean, we have the same plans that we submitted last time. I'm here to maybe hear from you guys that what can we do here, right? The original plans that we submitted last year, they were confirming to the overall guidelines on the commercial development of Marvin Town. But I understand since it's going to be a conditional zoning, I don't think those guidelines apply. So I'd like to hear from you guys that what can be done there, what is the extent of the commercial development that can go into that area, and that will give us something to take back to our planners and scope out the thing.
Currently, I don't think, and I think we just got the land use development from planning board, correct? You just sent us the final
That was the survey.
survey. Okay, that was the
Right.
survey. I'm getting them confused. But there's still, our planning board, my understanding is in the process of finalizing on what that all looks like. That is designed to help people like you and saying, okay, coming in here, and we still have to approve that. So it's gonna go to planning board, they vet it, they come out with their recommendations of what potentially could be rezoned, CUP, whatever it is, and then what that all looks like. And it's supposed to be very simple, and it's supposed to be where you coming in, you can basically say, is there an opportunity for me here or not? And so we're not there yet, I don't think we are we? Because we haven't seen the final land use plan. Originally, the person who was doing it, who put that particular property on it, that plan was this thick. Okay, most land use plans are not that in-depth, it's just, it gives an idea. So we're still waiting from the planning board and
I mean, is that parcel of land even being looked at in the current
I'll
land
just-
use plan?
For now, I can say they haven't gotten to that section yet, but this map right here is in the draft land use plan. And it designates those parcels as a commercial, that district, commercial quarter conditional district.
But that's not approved yet.
It's not been approved
I
yet,
mean, that's.
but it's in the draft land use
But
plan
that's the,
as a future land use map.
Currently, the one that we have today.
The one that we have today is not,
That one.
it's very old.
Okay.
well,
So
but it's approved. The one we have today,
Yeah.
that's not approved.
Right.
Then that was my whole point.
That's
so
the only
that
one
was,
that's
but
approved.
that was my question is the planning board even looking at that parcel? And if they are, what are they saying?
They haven't gotten to the map section yet. They're gonna do it at the next planning board meeting.
Okay. So as of right now, that is not a commercial parcel.
No, it's still residential.
Keep in mind to the applicant, you've got two new ones here, so they have no clue what your proposal was last time.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
When they were
and-
sitting in the audience.
They were
yeah,
both
but
not
they
here.
didn't have the paperwork,
Right.
and I don't have the paperwork with me now, so I don't even remember what it looks like. That was
I can bring a
4 months
plans.
ago.
So you guys are basically coming with still the same plan.
I mean, right now, because we don't have any further guidance on that, right? What we can do with that. The plan that we had last time, I understand that was not going anywhere. I mean, there was a lot of contention, of course, but we have not gone back or changed that, because we would like to have some guidance from you guys that, okay, if we cannot do this, this is the extent that is allowable. And right now, I understand that you guys are still deciding whether these two parcels are gonna be commercial or not at all. So, yeah, so I would like to see something, where the town wants to go, and then we'll go back and, go back to the drawing boards.
Then if that's the
But-
case, then I think we need to wait till the land use plan has been approved.
And
But
we
you're-
hear from the planning board, because they vet it and they go through all the things, what it could look like, but they give us recommendations. Does that make sense for it to change the zoning there?
Right, but what I just said was, once it's approved, once we approve it,
Right.
then at that point, you're gonna know whether it's commercial or it's not commercial, and then you can go from there. Cause otherwise it's just us being like, well, it might be, it might not be, and we're just,
Yeah, that's what helps with flying at 50,000 feet. You come in with, okay.
but once we know if it's gonna be commercial
But I
or
think
not.
the former council, looking at that, said there was no interest in what you currently had, is what I heard.
And-
Now we have a new council and less one, but the fact is we still don't know, because I don't think we've taken a real close look, because we really haven't approved the land use map at all.
I mean, I don't, me personally, party of one, I don't wanna look at the plans until I know if that's gonna be commercial or not. Cause it's not a good use of time. There's no point in looking at it and figuring out, oh, well, maybe you could do this here instead, or you could do that there instead, when we don't know if it's gonna be commercial or not.
So the land use plan that we have today, as you know, it's very small. And Rohit, you correct me if I'm wrong, but any rezoning to a commercial district currently today is inconsistent with that land use plan that is in operation today. Now, that could change June, July, when this is approved, if it's approved as it's here, where it would be consistent. So there's a little bit of issue approving anything contingency
Right.
today because it's inconsistent.
And-
Am I correct?
And I would be uncomfortable saying, oh yeah, that looks at 50,000 feet, that looks like that's a good something, and then it comes down to the vote.
It says
and
on
we
Providence
don't-
Road you can have commercial.
We don't even
Okay.
have it approved yet. Jamie, you were gonna say something.
No, I was just, I did sit in on the last time that you presented, and, just looking at it at that point, just kind of from the outside in. I don't know how it was structured, how the process was in play. I did kind of feel that as though that maybe the process was disjointed a little bit. And so as I walk away, my takeaway from it was, I hate that it ended up being that way. So I guess what I would, say at this point is I agree with Joe, agree with Ken on, let's try to fix the process back. But in the interim, because I know you're sitting here wanting some kind of information, I don't think we're prepared to give you that information. And that's probably the safest thing for us to tell you, you know, and that's just, you know, again, my opinion, it's the safest thing to tell you, because I felt bad that because the process seemed to be disjointed, the train was moving down the track, and I wish somebody would have said, stop the train.
Yeah.
You know, don't even get on the train. Don't have someone there. Just stop it until this stuff is addressed and is finalized.
And that's exactly what we were trying to get to, where we were encouraging, when they went to Rohit, a developer, before they do it, just float this idea in front of council to see if it's even in the realm of what, and just because it happened to be colored in by an individual and
In an unapproved,
And that was,
that might
in my
happen.
opinion, and again, opinion of one, I think that was, because, I don't know if it was process, I don't know if it was just trying to be helpful, whatever it is, I think that was, you know, not helpful for you.
yeah,
That's-
it was a messed up.
That threw us off because initially, I mean, it was 3-4 years back when we bought that property, right? We did at least some due diligence. We met some people. We saw that what it says future land use plan. So that was our impression that is the future land use plan from Marvin.
Right.
so maybe
we went into
yeah. So maybe to help you a little bit, if you look back just 2 meetings ago at a regular meeting, guess who was sitting here? It was 7-Eleven. The plan's already in place. It's been approved. Now they're asking about specifics. Before we buy and we build, can we have 24-hour service? Are we gonna entertain that? Because it's already been approved.
All right.
You guys went forward with something which you thought may have been approved, which it never was. It was just someone's idea.
Correct.
Happened to color it in, and you went and spent on it, which makes no sense. So I would say, and that's why we encourage Rohit, encourage these developers to meet with us and find out what is approved, and then if there is a conditional that we would consider, what is that? You know, does it come to the thing and you present it to us? You get the.
No, that's
we're not-
true.
yeah,
That's I think that's how it should be. And earlier when we met Rohit, he did mention about that. There is an optional meeting. He said that. Yeah, there is an optional meeting. Maybe you want to have that. And we said, I mean, optional. That was the catchphrase at that time for us. That we see the land use plan. Rohit mentioned it's an optional. We said let's just put the plan together and submit it. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe it should be mandatory meeting that.
Well, we can't tell what a developer or a landowner wants to do. If they want to go forward with a plan and just risk rolling the dice and coming to council, what we were trying to do is let's have that meeting first at 50,000 feet to see if we would even entertain it. So, because you got all thumbs down, would you spend $10,000, $15,000 on it?
Exactly, we would not have gone.
I don't think that would happen.
That's where I felt, oh gosh, it was like, man, somewhere this got off track. And I wouldn't want you, I would want you to leave today, if I'm sitting in your shoes, I would leave their day and say, we're just gonna be in a complete holding pattern because they're not prepared, have not approved, have not discussed anything regards to this, and you know, I guess I'm just trying to correct what the process that got off track, trying to correct it now. So when you leave here, that the safest thing in my opinion, would be for you to just still stay in that holding pattern until we can get the land use plan approved with a complete approval. You know, that's not you know, an opinion. It's not.
It's in the books.
And once that plan's approved, it tells you what we allow as far as building requirements, how many square feet is going to be allowed in there, what that looks like. We don't have any of that information right now. Even if it was zoned, it would, for that, we wouldn't have that information for you.
So, and hypothetically, if you guys approve it as a commercial, is it going to be conditional, so as to speak, that there will be still some uncertainties about, you know, how many square feet that can go in for your final approval?
I think that's part of the ordinance, is it?
Yeah, it's still a section in our ordinance that type of district should have certain like starting regulations. But again, since it's a conditional district, a lot of those things are negotiable.
So I passed out the current land use plan today, the one that's in operation today, which identifies Providence Road as having some conditional ability there.
At the
But
bottom
there's
of
a
the,
map that's on the back that does not identify this parcel as you see it in this
Okay.
map here. So that may be where the mix-up is. And if you want to, if you can, Pat, if you don't mind giving the applicant a copy
Yeah.
as well,
sure.
so that he's aware of today how it stands. Now, as you've heard, this document is in current review right now, so that will change probably June or July. As it stands now, there's a section in our ordinance, and it's ordinance 151085, and I'll get Rohit to make a copy of it for you, but it goes through the entire permitted uses of what would be allowed in that district if it's zoned as it's identified here.
Yeah, and I
So
think
that gives you some guidance.
we did get that copy from Rohit, right? Or is it the updated one?
This is the old one.
No, I'm talking about the
Or,
permitted
oh,
uses.
yeah, I've given that to them
Oh,
already.
Okay, so that gives you some guidance as to what council has identified they'd like to see in those areas,
Yes.
or at least conceptual plans. Now, as far as site design and all that stuff, that's a whole different story. So
Correct.
I'm not really sure what you're intending to walk away with this conversation as far as site design, or just
No,
Okay.
my intention, and I think, Jamie, you mentioned it, and maybe you mentioned it clearly, that you guys are still not sure whether you want commercial district in that area or not, and that's what I wanted
I
to
think
know,
that's
whether
fair,
it's
yeah.
happening or not.
Yeah.
And if it's not happening, I mean, we can be in the holding pattern for a few months, and that's the another timeline I wanted to see, that, what's, and I understand it's June, July timeframe when your new plans are gonna be.
We're waiting on planning board to finalize that, then they give their recommendation to us, and then it comes to the board, and we approve this, the updated this, and then once we get the updated this, then you will have your sort of direction of what you could or could do, if anything. So,
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions from council?
I just had one question. I remember sitting in the meeting, I think you owned 1/3 of it, am I correct? 1/3 of that parcel?
That's
And then
correct.
there's two other, I think it's broken up,
One-
there's two other parcels, correct?
There is one more, so there are total two parcels currently.
Two parcels, okay,
Out of which one we own and another we have a contract on.
okay. I'm just asking, did you purchase the property with the thought that it might become commercial at some point in the future?
The first one that we have right now?
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, that was the idea, that when we purchased that property, there's a small home right now there.
Right.
And that's what actually borders the Marvin Garden, I believe, that's the community. But yeah, that was the intention originally.
So the real estate agent told you it was zone commercial?
No, he made it clear, I mean, it was not zone commercial, but he made it, there was a chance of make it commercial, just because it was on the main highway.
Okay.
And I think he was the one who pointed us to this map initially.
Okay, which wasn't approved, so
Which
you were going
wasn't
off of information that
Yes.
wasn't up to date and stuff, so that's.
Imagine a salesperson trying to sell something.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just, being a real estate agent, you can't be going around saying that, yeah, this could be turned into, yeah, there's a lot of things that could happen, but that's where I'd go to, the due diligence on that was somehow missed, because I think this was just, I'm not saying pie in the sky, but it is, because it is on a major thoroughfare and stuff, but, we are, if you look at our current land use plan, that's what you gotta go out off of.
Okay.
So, any other
I think that's,
questions?
no, I don't have any other questions unless you guys have anything. I think I got my answers for now, so we'll wait till June, July, and see where we go from there, I guess.
Once we get the approval. That sounds great.
Great,
Thank
thank you very much.
Thank you.
guys. Thank you for your time.
Okay, next up we have Village Hall. Thanks for coming. Next up we have Village Hall. Is that you, Christina?
Well, I'll let Jamie speak to his meeting.
I met with both Robbie and with, and again, it was
Yeah.
after church and
Yeah.
it was on a Sunday and I could have them all together. Had a great meeting with both Robbie and with the elders, so to speak. They're very much interested in doing something. Their only request of this would be that in a tear down, that this would be the tear down, but the new location would be further down this way, as close down to the other church as possible. And I said, well, is there a happy medium? So, I mean, we could, if we wanted to go out and just actually walk it, they want it more down toward this way.
Would that be involved moving this big tree?
I'm gonna guess, yes, because
There's a lot of trees that would have.
because you're also talking about parking as well. So they're trying, what they're looking at is, so it would be literally,
On the other side of the tree, maybe.
on the other side of the big tree. Yeah.
Well, that's all discussion.
On the other side of the big tree. But they are very open to it. As they said, it is not easy to get the elders to agree upon something like this, but they have had discussions around it and they're very open to it. I told them that this is something that we would want to move quicker with than just kind of letting it drag along. They said, nope, completely got it. They gave me the impression that they're certainly on board to this being torn down and then doing the rebuild further down.
Well, if that's the case, can we do the rebuild and hang out here while it's being built? And then just tear this down when we're done?
I kind of thought, that was my thing, was that would certainly help us. I think at the end of the day, they just, they want this to be torn down.
Okay, so we can hang out here while it's
We
being
can
built?
hang out here while
That'd
that's
be
being
awesome.
built. And they said, we discussed, going into a, kind of a long-term lease. And I said, well, probably not. I said, roundabout would be somewhere like a 50-year. And I said, I'm not, trying to lock us into it. I don't have a final say on that. And
With an option to
yeah,
renew?
Oh, absolutely.
We're all in line with that.
Okay.
So I thought coming out of it, they presented us with a great option for us to do a couple things. One is put a new facility here, stay here while they're building that. This would then be torn down. We can revitalize this area. It gives them additional parking for the church. For stuff
Would they
here.
want the additional parking like right here, or would they? I mean, because again, and it doesn't matter to me, but I was kind of envisioning it being here at the current location with then having shared parking. So if it's over there, I don't know how much shared parking there would be.
And I would probably just look at someone. I would give it to someone who, because I can't draw a stick man.
Yeah.
So I can't visualize.
So let me ask you this: Did you get a reason why they would want it shifted? And I'm just asking.
They just probably want it further away from the church.
Yeah, and they wanted to look at They were looking at parking as well.
Okay, so there's no intent to do something else here right now and
No.
stuff. Okay,
No.
and we just I'm with you, Kim. I envision us moving for 8 months or whatever till this gets built, but we knock it down and you build something here.
I mean, that actually helps if we can do it a little
Absolutely,
further down.
but what does that look like, and then how many trees are we tearing out here? Because that's part of the beauty of this quite thing is I want to get rid of, and that's a big tree that we're looking at. Does that mean that we set the town hall set back and something? I don't know. Those are answers that
Yeah, but
I would know.
that's like, I mean, that's easy stuff to figure out. And they said just as close as you can, so we say, okay, we will, but we want to be able to retain these trees. It's part of the beauty of this corridor. I'm
Right.
sure that
They would like to see that.
I think that
Try it.
I just think that we have an open opportunity to present something to them in a very short time frame. I know we've got the other properties that we'll discuss as well, but they're open and they're ready to move. They've gone past the concept of, oh my gosh, we love this, this facility here, this building here, and oh my, you can't tear it down. They're past that point.
Okay, good.
So I'm with you as far as I think for staff, if we can,
Is it on?
for staff, if we can somehow figure out, we can get some names of the elders and stuff, we'd have to call what's a special meeting for this, because I don't think we should be taking up time of village, because these are just ideas that we're coming into. My goal would be win-win for everybody, where they benefit from it, we benefit from it, to the point where what happens is, my understanding in a long-term lease is, they pay the taxes on the land, we pay the taxes and the maintenance going forward on the building. Where the 50 years, 90 years, the reason they do it that long, because it is negotiable, but technically they don't own the building, because it's the town that owns the building. So they can, unless they were to somehow in 50 years or 99 years come in and say, you know what, and there's an agreement with council saying, we'll sell that because we have another property we'll build on, then they buy it at fair market value, whatever, however that looks. I don't know that, but it's just,
So don't you think that the next step would be to have chaplain, I mean, I'm sure the church has an attorney.
I wouldn't necessarily want an attorney. I would want someone who understands long-term leases and the pros and cons.
That's a real estate attorney. So, I mean, cause it ain't gonna be a real estate agent.
It could be a commercial real estate agent that has done long-term leases and stuff, but it could be an attorney too, yes.
You're gonna need chaplain to weigh in on this.
I think her point is that maybe we offer someone and they offer someone.
Yeah.
Or let's them get a thing and they can pick it out for all I'm concerned, they can pick out that attorney and then
Yeah, I don't care.
have them come to us to present that, or we can pick it out,
And
whatever
talk to
works.
chaplain, and then that way, we're continuing to move this forward and we're not just kind of diddling, because I really do think, I mean, yes, we can have a special meeting and we can sit down and we can talk about it, and we want to put it here, we want to do it. I think the next step is, let's figure out the legalities of what that lease, contract, whatever is gonna look like, and legality wise, it ain't gonna be a real estate agent to put that together.
Yeah,
It's gonna be an
and
attorney.
in all fairness, in this meeting, I'd want to get them comfortable from a win-win situation, that they're even involved in what it looks like from the outside.
Well, they said, now, they did say, how, are we gonna have any say in it? And I said, well, from my standpoint, I would want you to have a say.
Right, I would
You know,
too.
I would want you I would want you to have, some input on the, especially the exterior, how it sits, how it's positioned, how it's the view from the highway, whatever. Because I'm sure there's gonna be a different path to come into it, a driveway that comes into it. We're gonna have a fairly good sized parking lot that's gonna be hopefully paved. What that looks like, but then what that looks like here. Because now, I think somebody asked the question if they were gonna build another building here. I don't know if that's a deal breaker for them to say, you can never in 50 years not build
I mean,
if they needed.
I don't care if they build something here, it's their property.
Right.
It's just
But
gotta be.
what is it?
But right,
You know.
so,
Because
It can't be
technically
that
it's,
big if it's gonna sit on the
right,
parcel.
but it's zoned for, right now, this
Residential.
particular property is zoned for residential, so. But that may change in the land use plan, that they can potentially,
Have a community center
yeah,
or something.
whatever it is and stuff.
And that, I mean, that's fine.
Well, the land use plan is going towards village center becoming a thing, and in that zoning, it's gonna be custom built. Basically, there's only 12 property owners, so each of them could have a say in what that zoning district would be, or what it would allow. But anyway, so here's the parcel with the aerial. Here's where we currently sit. And what you were talking about is trying to fit the village hall somewhere in this grove, which is, there's 350 feet of room here. This area in the back is probably suitable, not probably, it's definitely suitable to build a house without removing any trees, and your shared parking would probably go pretty much where the house is.
But they wanna go closer to the right line,
They want,
no, other.
No,
I would-
they want
Keep
to,
going.
see the spot there?
going.
There you go.
Right there.
they want all the way out here,
Yeah.
is what you're saying, okay.
Yeah, and I would say more centered in, so move
More
your,
centered.
yeah, kinda like in,
Then here could be good enough without removing any trees.
yes.
Yeah, maybe one tree at most, but probably that.
But I love the idea of the fact that, and I never even thought that would be an option, but still knock this down, because this is just I mean, who are they gonna put in here anyways? Another family while this all gets changed? But if we can stay here while that gets built,
Right.
then we don't take occupancy of that until the lines
Well,
that,
as soon as
the
he,
sewer and water, which benefits them too, because they're gonna have water and sewer coming right by them, which I think anybody that, you know, it's an option. They can tap into it or not, you
Well,
know.
they probably would because they're on well, both of us are on well
Right.
right now.
Yeah.
We've had
Usually-
problems with it
Yeah,
currently.
well, as soon as he said, you know, would y'all be open to moving it further down? I'm like, wow, to me, that's a huge plus because now we're not even having to go to Wesley Chapel or
Yep,
somewhere else to look for
absolutely.
someplace.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And you got the old, and you see the new coming in. I mean, it's a visual. I mean, for 2 years, it's a visual.
Yeah, it is.
Oh God, let's hope we can get that done in 9 months.
Now,
I
no,
know, but I'm saying, but from start to finish, you get the whole visual.
Yeah.
You get the clearing of the land, you get you get to show what you're doing, then that you still have the old one here, and then at the end, you tear this down, you landscape it and clean it up.
so marching orders going forward for staff, as I say, Jamie, if you could get whoever contacts of those elders are, or however you want to arrange that, I would say a special meeting is probably more, and make it in the evening and stuff, if residents want to come in. It's just talk about what's the win-win for all of us. What does that long-term lease look like? Would the current council right now be open to allowing them to help us with the look of it and stuff? Because I think that's important. I want them to, personally, I would like it to look like it's been here as long as the church has been here, and create something that looks like, oh, that makes sense, town
But we
hall
can
is
make
right
it look
next
just
to it.
like the church then.
Yeah, I mean,
Take off
there's,
all that stone and stuff that you all had originally put on there.
Right.
And just put a green roof and white
there's a
house.
lot of options, but I would want their say, because what we were dealing with is just a few council members making that decision of what it looks like and stuff. And then that may change what the interior looks like too. And I think what we had was pretty good for the most part, but there's a lot of
I think we
places.
need to be very careful about changing too much, because then we're gonna start incurring like $30,000-$40,000.
Oh,
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think we're changing much of the plan of the inside of what it looks
No,
like, but
just
actually
Yeah, but if
the
you,
facade
but if you
of what
look
you're
at the
looking at.
if you look at the last facade that we picked, it was all the white, flat, like,
Similar to the home
yeah,
down here.
it's not,
And we would want them to
It
go
has
look at
no
that and say, are you okay with that?
So which one was that?
Just across the street from Sandy Ridge Elementary School.
it's like a white.
One of the last
farmhouse
houses on the
kinda
left.
looking.
It's got that look that,
So
you
it's
know.
more
know
like
exactly what
the
you-
white,
Yep.
you know,
Yeah.
cedar shake.
And
with
we would want to show that to
porches
them.
and-
I think we had stone involved though, didn't we?
Not the,
Wasn't
not,
it?
not the
No.
last,
No.
not the
Okay,
last
okay, good.
kind of swipe we took at it.
But again, it's the elders being involved in that decision,
Yeah, no, I
and
think
those,
give
that
them-
makes total
give them
sense.
some
And
ownership of it.
But
I think we could absolutely have a special meeting, sit down and talk and all that stuff, but I think that legal wise, that needs to be the next like step. Because if we can't like get that worked out, then there's no point in us sitting down talking about where we're gonna put it, what's it gonna look like.
So does it make sense in that first meeting that a legal real
No,
estate agent
no.
is there to,
No, I think
No?
I think it needs to
Okay.
be staff, and I think it needs to be the village attorney, and I think it needs to be somebody from the, you know, whoever from the church wants to be there. I do not think that we need to be in that meeting. I mean, to try to figure out the legal stuff out of it, I don't think we need to be there.
Until it's ironed out.
Yeah, until it's, because it's gonna be a bunch of back and forth, oh, I gotta look at this, oh, I gotta figure this out. Are you gonna be able to offer anything up in that meeting? No, cause I'm not.
well, we're making the decision if we go
That's-
forward with this.
that's
We
fine.
want to know what legalities, what we're tied to.
That's fine, once it has been nailed out, and this is the best thing that everybody can come up with, then it comes to us and we say thumbs up, thumbs down.
You're saying call a special meeting, but us not be here?
No.
No, so procedurally, we would ask staff to get with our attorney.
Yeah.
Let's have something to present to them and say, okay, this is what we're proposing. We're proposing to build something further down as you requested. we would be responsible for A, B, and C, and the long-term lease would be X. And
So you are getting a
but
real estate
but at
attorney
this
involved.
point, but at this point, it's staff, council,
Legal counsel,
right,
not counsel,
right,
yeah.
legal counsel, to put all of that together and then present it to,
So, so, let me throw the scenario out there. So council, whoever it is, chaplain, whoever it is, and staff, they all get together and they say, this is what we want, and then we disagree with it.
So then we change it, but we're not gonna, you and I are, none of us in this room are gonna be able to say, okay, this is what a legal, long-term lease looks like. These are, like, we're not gonna be able to offer up any of that.
But absolutely, but we're gonna have
We're gonna ask
opinions of
questions.
it, and we're gonna vote on it. So I wanna know if whatever it's kinda like this guy who, if he comes in and he wants to present something and we aren't in agreement of it, I think we're a part of it and we're sitting in on it and just listening. We're not there, but if we have opinions
Can
of
you
what
sit
it
there and
is.
listen?
so to that point, we need to be able to take something that's nailed down on our side, that we've all approved, so that when it gets to the church, if they say yes, then there's no more,
Yeah, 'cause
we don't
I
have
don't-
to get involved in it.
Right, I don't want to
'Cause we've
sit
already
here.
approved it.
I don't want to go back and forth with the church. Like, I don't want us sitting here going, well, you know, it should really be whatever. Like, I want stuff nailed down and done that we can present. And if the church doesn't like it, then they can come back to us and say, okay, we don't like this, we don't like that, and then we can look at it.
So,
Because I don't want to waste their time.
so then let staff and legal counsel come up with what that proposal will look like, then have a special meeting. So if we lock it down, if we all are agreements,
Then we present it to the church.
then we present it to the church, and then the only thing left is the church to come back with a yes or no, or could you change this, and then we all just say, agree to what that change would be or disagree with it. So we just lock it down, and then once it's saying yes, then we've locked that option down. That option no longer has to be dealt with as it lines up with the other options that we're looking at.
I'm fine with that.
So just so I'm understanding correctly, in general, Chaplain and I will come up with terms and provisions as we see fit. We'll have a special meeting with you all, go over it with you, make sure you guys are okay with it, and at that point in time, we'll have a meeting with the elders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're at that point, they just said, you let us know when you want to meet, present something to us that we could take a look at, take back to the elders. And I don't think we have to get too granular in it, but I think we do need to at least give them, yes, we're open to move, we would like to as well move it down there. So there's not we take that discussion off. We'd like to move it down. If you want to have the discussion on how far down, we can have that, but we're in agreement to move it down, because it also helps us, we could stay here till it's done. But then also, from the granular perspective, providing them insight to what it's going to look like. You have, I don't want to say final say, but we want you to have an input to, and I'm sure Chaplain can come up with some kind of.
And I would say get back up with AMT, whoever we use for stuff, and have them come out, look at the site. I mean, look over there, see what our plans look like, make sure that, it would all work.
So we would have to amend our contract with our landscape architect to have them kind of overlay it there. So I'm not sure if we're ready to get to that point till we know if we're gonna go with the same plans or if we're gonna.
I don't think we do that until we get that blessing from these guys.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. We get their blessing, and then we move forward and say, okay, so now we got a framework involved and what that's gonna look like. Then we engage the thing, because let them know that, look, this may not work because of whatever. We may run into an issue over here that says, no, you can't do it.
Well, that's why I was saying have AMT come out and look at it.
But
Would it be AMT?
Would be AMT.
Sure.
Yeah, but they
I
can
mean,
do a
just
site,
have them-
they can do a site,
general.
general site and saying, can you put a building, what size building and run
Right.
off.
That's
So,
more what I meant.
one
Isn't
of
that
the
what I
things,
said?
one of the things that I foresee potential issue is as we knock this building down, we would have pavement, I would think. A paved area that you're coming into, not a gravel road, and then that shared parking, we would want, I mean, unless there would be almost like a shared cost, and if we are gonna do parking, is it gonna be paved or is it gonna be a gravel like they have
Oh,
here?
no, I mean, I think we need to have paved parking and.
But
and
are we
they can
paying
use
for
it-
that in this particular piece of land right here, that if this becomes parking or whatever, or maybe it's a fountain, who knows what it is, maybe it's a building down the road, but initially, is that gonna be paved parking, or if we don't, cause it's their land, and if there's gonna be shared parking for our side of it, what our building is on, I would think there would be it would all be paved.
Yeah,
But I'm not gonna dictate to them and say, oh, you need to put, but if they're gonna plan on sharing it. they're
well, I mean,
gonna
we have to have X number of spots for Village Hall anyway, so all of those spots that we have to have, we would be responsible for paving it, maintaining it, doing
Right.
everything. So
But in
then they
between-
can use it over there if they want
Right,
to.
but I'm saying this area, they may create as just paved parking.
Fine,
Or,
I don't care what, I don't care, I don't, that's
stone
fine.
parking until they figure
But I
out
don't think
what they
that
wanna
has
do.
anything to do with us building over there and having. the
I'm just
parking.
saying if they're assuming that we're gonna take that, we're only gonna be dealing with that, once this is leveled, we have no control or no say
Right.
what they spend, because
And
it,
if they wanna come in and use this as a parking lot or whatever, cause that's still gravel.
Yeah.
They can still,
community center or whatever, whatever they wanna build,
Yeah.
so, yeah, they could still.
they have their option.
Okay.
Yeah,
Are you
listen,
clear
like
with what?
So I'm gonna go over and make sure I understand. I'm gonna get with Chaplain, there's a consensus for me to work with Chaplain to nail
Hold on,
down.
we haven't even heard what Bob said. You just been sitting over there looking pretty today.
I'm just listening. But my question was gonna be, I'm looking at money and costs and everything else. Seeing the other residents over there, you know, we were talking about, we sat in and listened to them, and they wanted what, we took on about 700,000, then we talked about 400,000. So we're talking about maybe, depending how we negotiate, it's 1.1 million, somewhere right around there. What my question was going to be is, the building that would go there would be the one that's already been drafted up, that
Yep.
we saw, right?
More or less, yes.
And that was like about, am I gonna guess that was about 800,000 or something?
From
Maybe a million?
from the bids that we got,
Just
it was
the
like
building alone.
like 900 probably.
900,000, because I, looking at the two, I would be on this thing in a heartbeat, because looking at all the stuff that we were thinking, well, we need to do this, oh, we need to do that, and it was a wonderful thing, but I think this shows better, it's in a better, we can do everything we wanted, we're talking about paving over there.
We got better sight lines.
Yeah.
Number one, the landscaping alone and what you'd have to
Yeah.
regrade over there to
Mhm.
create 28 parking spaces is a lot of money. Then you got, either way, we've got access to water and sewer, which
Yeah.
we would need. Again, we don't need to take occupancy until that, and that can be done ahead of time, my understanding. That roundabout does not have to go in first. I mean, they're gonna put in the sewer and water anyways, right?
No, we have to get we have to initiate the water line extension, otherwise they won't do it.
Okay,
So we.
So here's the roundabout,
yep,
and that's where the water ends right now. They are extending sewer,
okay.
but they're not extending water.
So we would need water line coming on which side of the property? On
Water, so the
Newtown Road, which side of Newtown Road water line would be?
before we get into that, the county has a master plan that the water is gonna be on the south side of the road,
Okay.
and the sewer is gonna be on the north, so that's kind of fixed. Regardless, the water line would extend, on the south side of Newtown Road, and it would come along and then cross the road wherever it needs to access a house.
Okay.
The same would be if we were extending it from the Waxhaw Marvin Road side.
Where's the water line
It
in
looks like
there?
that's much closer.
Yes, for the site that we're asking for, and even if you put it on the other side, it's even closer. This is about 800 feet from Waxhaw Marvin Road, and then it's gonna be about 1,600 feet from Marvin Road.
It's almost
Right, so in talking.
$100,000 in difference in price,
Yeah,
which
since
way
we're
you
talking
access it.
$100 a foot, but I just wanted to bring this up in the conversation about the total cost. If if we're trying to make sure we have water and sewer, sewer would either have to be extended from here, you know, if we were to go.
On which side of the road?
It would be on the north side,
Okay.
so it would be on the north side. Or if we're talking about the option we're just talking about right now, which is the house on the edge of this property, it would probably be extended from the back of the preserve, and the water would be extended from Waxaw.
Oh, that's even
across the
closer.
street.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Much better.
So in talking about this site, actually putting it on the far side of the property would probably save us around $50,000.
So the church would probably then, we just continue, if the church wanted to, they would have to tap in and continue that sewer line and water line. That would, you know, wouldn't necessarily, eventually it will come by.
Eventually, but
Yes.
again, Union County Public Works has a 100% customer funded model, so if it does, it's these people that are gonna be paying for it.
Okay, so either way, it's not the county that's gonna be paying for any of that. Okay, so that makes sense, so then they would know.
So that's even better to
It
have it
would
over
be,
here.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So that's where I would say, if we get the go-ahead on that property there, then we're tapping in on the other, this.
Sewer's tapping in from the back of
Yep.
the preserve, and water's tapping in from Waxaw Marvin Road.
Okay, yep. And it's just a matter of we're dealing with a few property owners, which I'm sure they would be
I'm sure they all
happy.
would like to have sewer.
Yeah, and water. I mean,
And
especially across the street
Yeah,
here with
yeah.
what they just built and stuff. And
All right, so Christina, do you have your
anything
marching
else,
orders?
Bob?
No, I think that's it.
Oh yeah, I was in the middle of asking Bob.
Well, he
No.
was in the middle
Sorry,
of
I know I
finishing.
forgot.
No, I'm with it 100%. No, the other question I was gonna ask is, it says, this isn't related, but I think we talked about it. They're doing a lot of surveying over here right now. They're on, obviously, the
Yeah,
property.
here.
What is that for? Just-
They are
It's a
on,
sewer line,
yeah,
isn't
no, they're on
No, that's,
schedule for, the real estate acquisition for the roundabout. They're doing that now.
Oh no, it's like stakes are like way further down. That's gotta be the sewer line.
What do you mean, way further down Meadowlark?
No, way
or-
further down.
Marvin.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that is probably the Marvin Road, the entire sewer line, upgrade.
Cause it's on the Innisbrook side. It's not,
Yeah.
that's what you're asking.
That's-
Yeah, well, they
Yeah.
started going over to,
You're right,
Reason's property and.
That's
but
probably
they're
the
done.
real estate acquisition.
Yeah, they're doing both
There's two
simultaneously.
things going.
You're right.
One
One's
way
the
you find
sewer
out
line.
is you just pull over.
Just pull
go
over and ask, yeah. I was
That's
just
how I
asking,
do
because
it.
you were asking about all that.
Why are you here?
Right, so they are doing the real estate, NCDOT is doing real estate acquisition now, but as Kim said, Union County Public Works is also doing that sewer line upgrade, which is
Okay.
Yeah.
on the side.
And
of
they're
the street
marking
all the way.
stuff, cause there's stakes all over.
But I'm
Could there
personally,
potentially be sewer on both sides of that road? Or?
No, they always put water and sewer on opposite sides of the street. as
And
much
that's
as possible.
fine, but so then as we look at this, we're tapping into here, right, on the backside, that it benefits all these properties. This guy and this guy are getting their sewer from where?
They're not currently, but they would get it from the extension to Philbrick's
They would,
house.
okay, so they would
And then
tap
it
in
would
that
come
way and
from
this,
this way,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
And it sounded like they were already in conversation with about it.
Okay.
Sorry, Bob, you're gonna say something.
no, I'm good. I was just gonna say, I'm excited about the project. I think it sets itself as a centerpiece. If this heritage center village district, manifests itself in the future, we're like a figure stone right there. I think it's
I agree.
all good,
And then we can do something super fun on the corner.
yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
So is there a consensus to me and Chaplain to work together to get high-level terms, conditions, provisions for location, amount, terms, maintenance, shared parking, in-site design, any other thing that Chaplain sees fit to
Yeah.
have this high-level,
What that lease looks like.
high-level
What
lease?
the lease looks like and then the tear down as well, because we would be responsible for the tear down as well.
Yeah.
And, but once we get it cleared,
I'll come in here with a bulldozer and just do it down.
but once we get it back to kind of the tear down is done, then they're responsible for this plot of land.
So I have a consensus to move forward on that?
Yes.
So we would be, because,
Can we answer
so hold on
Christina?
hold on a second, just so we're clear here. Either way, what you think they're saying is this gets torn down. It doesn't stay as an existing building.
They
For
want
them
us to tear it down and pay for it.
Okay. Because that's a big cost. There's probably at least 50 grand right there to knock this building down, at least.
And again,
It's cheaper to burn it, by the way, so.
Well, then burn it. All you have to do
I
is
mean,
just contact the
You
fire
can, but then you knock the
department.
building down and you haul everything away. It is less
Which-
expensive to do that.
I'm being cynical here. There's enough starter trash right there, which I will take away
It
this
makes for
weekend.
good kindling.
I will take away this weekend.
Yes. Pitiful.
What are we
It's
referring to?
pitiful.
What's that?
Referring
It's
to?
pitiful.
Yeah, I will take it away this
The-
weekend.
The
Just-
old village
you tell me-
should be under,
You
code
just need to tell me
enforcement.
what needs to, if there's anything that you want, speak now, because,
You're coming to get it?
yeah,
we don't want any of that.
okay.
I have a trailer and haul it off for you.
I got Luke's truck.
As long
and my
as,
truck,
as
too.
we don't dump it into the corner lot as the,
Phil,
It's the dump
As
spot.
some people do.
as some people do. There's a
Um,
basketball goal there, a
so-
couple Christmas trees, it's gone now. They're
okay,
gone.
so Christina, you're pretty clear where you need direction?
If there's, as long as there's consensus.
Yes.
So we need to vote on that, we don't. As we pursue that, is playing devil's advocate, if this doesn't go through, do we parallel anything else? Are we talking to anybody else? Are we?
I think we wait and see what happens here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, just.
But I think
Unless it's the White House.
as we've
Well,
told,
that's what I'm asking, in fairness.
as we've told our previous presenter, I think we just put a hold, don't, just hold until we have a
Unless the
declaration.
White House comes to us and says they won't sell.
Well, in fairness, and I did get a chance to talk to them, so we have it on the record and stuff. I talked to the homeowner, the husband, and he was, all I can say was very concerned about how many trees were gonna be disappearing and how much of his front yard was gonna go away. So they love the house, he's getting more accustomed to it, but in the end, I mean, it's convenience from a standpoint where his in-laws are next, across the street, but you never say never. You never know what that is, and this could fall on its face. We don't know, but if that opens up, and then in the meantime, DOT has come in and they said, yeah, here's what's going to happen in the end, and they're not with it. I just want to know, are you guys okay? Because we looked at it a year ago or so, and it was doable with what we had, and it was probably adding $200,000 to get that under a belt, but it's existing, and the tap-in line would be nothing. For the water, the sewer line would be right there as well. So there's benefits there that aren't as much cost. It's more of converting it for it stands now to a commercial building for that. But to your
I mean, I
point,
think this is number one.
I agree.
And if something happens, I don't think we need to pursue it, but if they come to us and say, and then this doesn't work, then
Yeah.
we looked at it, but I don't think we need to be.
We're not actively going after them. I think, and I left it to
Do
them. They had some questions, what was gonna happen. They were gonna come and present in their 3 minutes of talking. I said, that's not really the venue for that. It's meet with a couple council people, let us know your concerns or where you're at, and then we can bring that to a meeting where we can talk, and possibly invite them in if there's something to talk about.
I feel good about where we're at with it. I think the constituents would see what we're doing there and be very proud of what we're doing there. And because again, the church and this is kind of the staple piece.
And in the end, we're saving $800,000 on the site
Oh, yeah.
development
Oh, yeah.
that it is in that corner that I don't think ever was really designed for that.
Mhm.
So, I mean,
We still have to assess the BMP requirements at this site too.
Yeah.
Because we may still have the same impervious surface area. I don't know until we actually get.
yeah.
it.
Well, we'll give the marching orders for that once we
Yeah,
get some
yeah.
kumbaya with the other thing. Good job. Thank you for following up with that and having that ready for today. So anything else on that?
I want to say before we move on, can I get some direction to, ask Public Works about the cost, the real, cost estimates
Sure.
for those utility extensions?
Sure.
I mean, as long as they're not gonna charge us to tell us what it is.
No,
If they
no.
give us an estimate, it's
They'll do it for
$120 a foot. And then what we are dealing with on the backside there, and is it possible, those are all things.
Yeah, I want to get
We just
some
don't wanna spend money on
cost
that yet.
estimates just to present it to
Yep.
you. We're talking about the total cost of each
Yes,
of these
you
options.
absolutely can.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Can we take a 5-minute break?
yes, I think we'll, just gonna call
I'd
for
like
a
to
quick
make a-
recess. Go ahead.
Yeah, quick
You wanna
recess.
call for a quick recess?
Yes, quick
All's
recess.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion.
Yeah, you get to fill out your Subway